Fraud deals, furious legal battles, massive compensations, and a last minute decision that changes everything. Sounds like the making of a political thriller film, no? Well, these are just the elements of the decade long battle between the Indian government and Devas Multimedia. The battle began in the aftermath of India's 2G scam with a simple termination of agreement. But the stakes just kept rising and rising to the extent that India now has to pay Devas 1.5 billion US dollars, and the future of Air India is at stake too. But what exactly sparked this battle? Hi, this is Revolution ReadOn, a daily podcast where we break down one story from the world of business and finance. Here's your story for today. The tale begins in 2003. In a move to rapidly increase the penetration of mobile services in India, ISRO began talks with US-based Forge advisors. Forge claimed they had multiple patents that could help with this. But if they wanted to strike a deal with Antrix, which is the commercial arm of ISRO, they had to form an Indian company. And so, Devas Multimedia was born. Under the terms of the deal, Antrix would build and launch 2 satellites, and 90% of their capacity would be leased out to Devas. Plus, Devas would also get S-band spectrum, which is usually only reserved for government entities, all for just 1,000 crore rupees. This deal, which would be valid for 12 years, would allow Devas to provide multimedia services to mobile users. Sounds simple enough, right? But the government terminated the deal in 2011 itself. It claimed that the S-band spectrum was worth over 2 lakh crore rupees. So why did Devas get such a discount? Well, according to the government, some Antrix officials had cut a favorable deal with Devas for their own personal gain. Now, the matter could have ended here. But thanks to the Antrix deal, Devas had found multiple foreign investors, including Deutsche Telekom Germany, Columbia Capital, and Telecom Ventures Mauritius. These foreign investors were unhappy with the abrupt termination of the deal. So, they dragged the Indian government to international courts. Multiple international courts, including the International Chamber of Commerce, have ruled in favor of Devas. They have asked the Indian government to pay them a total of 1.5 billion US dollars. To make up for at least part of this claim, Devas will get 50% of Air India's assets held by the International Air Transport Association, ruled a Canadian court. Wondering why all the courts are siding with Devas? Because there's a slight chance that the government may have misjudged the Devas agreement. You see, the 2G scam, which broke out in the late 2010s, spooked the government. The scam unearthed the fact that several politicians had been giving away spectrum licenses for cheap for their personal benefits. This had already cost the government a lot, and so it decided to terminate the Devas agreement as well to prevent further losses. So the question whether the Devas agreement was actually a scam or not is still up in the air. While international courts have ruled in favor of Devas, our Supreme Court has declared the agreement a fraud and called for the dissolution of Devas. This is incredibly good news for the government, because now it can use this ruling to challenge the decisions of all the international courts and try to get away without paying Devas. Plus, this will also help it conduct the sale of Air India to Tata Sons, which is currently being jeopardized by the decision of the Canadian court. But if we look at the larger picture, this could represent a massive loss for the whole country. If India gets out of paying foreign investors their dues, it will shake their confidence. This could directly impact our dream of becoming a 5 trillion US dollar economy. Who do you think will win the final battle? And that's your story for today. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and not miss out on your daily story from the world of finance. Thanks for listening in. Until next time, read on.